Hello, interactive storytellers. Anna Sabramowitz here. Hope you're having a fabulous day. Let's talk about our thoughts and feelings today because they have a lot to do with learning. And what I wanted to do is give you a quick overview today of how maybe you should be approaching your learning experiences, and there might be some elements missing. And I know this because for a long time when I crafted my own e-learning, one of the things that I felt was I could create something that was really beautiful. I could create something that was really simple to use, intuitive, in the right way, and visually excellent. But what happened is one of the things that I struggled with was, how do I get people to go to the very end? How do I get people to engage with something deeply and care about the topic that I'm trying to get them to care about, right? How do I do that? And for a very long time, I also had this struggle with, I'm not affecting behavior change. What am I doing wrong, right? And it's very difficult for us to be instructional designers these days, as far as I'm concerned, because not only do we have to be instructional designers and great at language and great at working with people, but we also have to be project managers. We also have to be software developers. So it's a full stack, demand on us. And what happens is a lot of times, because we are overwhelmed with all the things that make a project great, is we can fall into the trap of believing some of the promises that software gives us as far as what's going to take us to the next level. How is this going to be more engaging? And we get fed some lies about, if you use this kind of software, if you use this kind of interactivity or this kind of interaction, it's going to make all the difference. And that's not the truth, right? There's a couple of things that I've discovered over time that I think you're going to find that will help you. So let me contextualize them first a little bit. And yeah, we're going to get into thoughts and feelings. So what I'm going to do right now is just bring up my chat so I can see what you guys are saying. And if you're here, you better say hi. I love seeing where you guys are from. And also, more importantly, I'd love to hear from you about where are you specifically struggling with engagement? Because one of the things that I think is super important is, first off, when you're battling for people's attention, and that's what you're doing every day with your e-learning, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like I'll see people on coaching calls. I'll see people on sessions where they're paying big money to be there, and they're distracted by buzzes and bings and blips and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, this is insane, right? These people are paying to be here. So imagine now you're crafting learning for people who are getting paid to be there. We're paying them to be there. So do you think they're distracted? Hell yeah, right? It's crazy. And so one of the things you first have to do with your whatever you're doing with your e-learning is get them to notice, get them to pay attention to what you're doing, at least grab their attention initially. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what's behind the gate. If you haven't intrigued them or you haven't piqued their curiosity enough, you're screwed. You're screwed. It doesn't matter, right? So one of the things you have to do is initially is grab attention, right? So grabbing attention is important. And I think a lot of us actually are doing this well. Some of us could be doing it better, right? And sometimes it's just provocative writing that gets people excited about something. They're like, oh, this sounds interesting. This sounds curious, right? You're piquing their curiosity. But let's talk about something where it comes down to, performance and behavior change, because I know that a lot of us out there are, like, what is, if I don't get behavior change, I failed, right? And we beat ourselves. We're like, oh, we didn't get them after the 15-minute module. They're not a great salesperson. And then we're like, when was the last time you took 15 minutes to change a habit in your life, right? Oh, my God, it takes repetition and over time. But there's something else that we're missing. So there's definitely, if you want to change somebody's behavior, right, there's lots of opportunity for you to craft things that maybe expose them to behaviors over time, especially if you're doing, let's say, sales training or some sort of compliance training or safety training, right? That's why we have refreshers. That's why we have, performance support. So they're getting it from many, many different angles. there's a piece missing, right? So let me just now go back to the piece that's missing. So this is a model. I didn't come up with this. This is somebody who I follow, and their model is for what actually causes behavior change or for you to get results. So there's circumstances out in the world, right? And depending on what happens, like let's say there's you were talking to a customer, and the customer, you're trying to sell them a phone, and they react a certain way. Well, depending on what you think about that, whether that was a positive or a negative experience, whatever you believe that to be. Some people will walk into the same situation, you know this, and they'll be like, oh man, that sucked. And somebody else will be like, oh, that went well, right? And it has nothing to do necessarily with the circumstances. It has to do with what that person thinks about that situation. Now, here's the next thing that happens. Based on what you think about that situation, you're going to have some feelings about it. Oh, I feel bad or I feel good, depending on your thoughts. Now, depending on how you feel about it, that's the kind of action you're going to take. If you feel good about it, you're going to take one kind of action. If you feel bad about it, you're going to take a different kind of action. Are you with me so far? Is this making sense? Let me know. And then depending on the action you take, you're going to get results, right? So if I thought that, if I'm doing this one action, I did something happens to me, and I'm like, oh, I wonder, that's interesting. Is that a good thing? I think it's a good thing. Okay. I feel good about that. Well, why don't I just go back and do more of that stuff, right? Why don't I go back and do more of that stuff? Because what I think about it is actually going to drive the results that I'm going to get. I'm going to do more of the action that I think produces the circumstances that I want. It becomes a loop, a self-replicating loop, right? If you think your client is giving you bad feedback, you feel bad about it, you're going to take less action, you're going to do less follow-up, you're going to be less enthusiastic, you're going to be less accommodating, and guess what? That's going to drive the results that you get, and those results are going to confirm your thoughts about that being a bad action, right? And it can go exactly the opposite way. What does this have to do with learning? Huge, you guys, huge. Because the thing is, when you're talking about behavior change and the things that we're designing, we're already designing it and expecting to feed into this part right here. And we say all we have to do for them to get different results, right, is to get them to take different actions. Solved, right? All I have to do is show them a manual where the actions are the right thing. I'll show them the right way to do it. That's all of the e-learning traditionally has been, really. Just fix this. But that's not how it works. You have to address this, and you have to address this before you get this. Because guess what? Everybody knows the right actions. Everybody knows they shouldn't be eating a pint of ice cream every single day. But they believe something about it. They have some thoughts about it. So, this is huge. Your action pieces, the resources, the performance tips, all that stuff, that still lives. That's cool. That's awesome. But you have to address what they're thinking, how they feel about the actions that they're taking, and then they'll take more of them because they will believe that they will get them the results that they want, and then that becomes a self-confirming bias, right? So one of the things you're trying to do, and that's why I think interactive storytelling in stories are huge for this, because you're already telling yourself a story, right? You already believe certain things. You already go out into the world with a lens, and you're telling yourself a story about the world and how it works. Some of you have good stories. Some of you have not so good stories. Guess what? With our learners, same thing, stories. They tell themselves stories about how they perform, what they're capable of, why certain things work, why certain things don't work, and whether that is true or not, those things exist. To deny them is just ignorant. Everybody has a story in their mind going on about their own, how they feel, what they're capable of. Some people are born salespeople. Some people, extroverts are better at sales. Introverts are better at writing, all kinds of stuff. People are born good at math, all kinds of other things too. Especially us. We got to work with this because most of us and the people that I usually work with, we're talking to adults, right? We're trying to persuade adults to do stuff. What does that mean? That means they come in with way more stories than anybody else, right? Tons of stories. Are you guys getting me? it's quite a bit of stories, right? So what you're trying to do then is you have to change what they think and feel about this topic first before you can get them the instructions on how to take action. Because if they believe the thing that you're telling them is good for them and they feel that it is good for them, then they'll take actions. And some of those actions might be, hey, I wonder if I could be a better salesperson. I wonder if there's training or if there's guides that would help me to take better action. Do you know what I mean? So there's places that traditional training fits, but if you're skipping all of this, it doesn't matter how good it is, because if I believe it's not going to help me and then I haven't taken any action that proves so, it won't work. So your performance change will be zero because it won't work. So you have to address this first. So how do you do that, right? You're like, oh, Anna, that's good. You can just say all this stuff. Naysayer. How do we get there? So this is what I suggest. One of the things that happens in let me just bring up my awesome diagram here instead of me trying to draw this again. Oh, just give me a second. By the way, you guys got any questions? I'd love to hear it. Okay. Oh, I got lots of diagrams here for you guys. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Basically, and by the way, if you're enjoying this content, I hope you like this video or share it, because it just lets me know that you guys are finding this valuable and it is adding to your professional repertoire. And hopefully you're enjoying these, because there's a lot of noise out there. So I appreciate you actually taking the time to tune in. But the other thing is, hi Priya. One of the things that's really important is that you know that some of these are my lessons and some of these are lessons from my students as well. Because a lot of us have been building learning for years and years and years, and we're deciding, hey, there's just a point where you reach a plateau and you're like, I could keep getting different software. I could keep making this sexier looking, but there's a point where you're like, okay, I got to get some real depth here. I got to get people to take action to the next step. And when we talk about behavior change, for me, that is not you becoming an amazing, thanks, Pam. That is not you becoming an amazing superstar after a single episode. But one of the things that's really important is that somebody takes the next step. And that's how you got to start looking at these things. It's not that after your module, somebody's going to become a doctor, right? Or a software maven. They're not. What they're going to do is you have to be strategic and say, okay, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to reach out to a mentor, or they're going to look in the LMS and find the tutorial that suits their needs, right? Okay, so I just wanted to show you here how this really fits into like the grand ecosystem, and hopefully you guys can read this in the right way, because you know how that happens. All right. Oh, thanks, ma'am. That's great. Haritos, awesome to have you here. Cool. So you guys, if you think about the journey of a learner, right? We're taking somebody who is unaware that there's a better way of doing things, and we're taking them all the way to optimally, where they're aware that they've got gaps and they're actively looking to fill those gaps themselves. This happens to us every day, right? This happens to us every single day, which is you perceive some kind of problem. All of a sudden it's urgent to you and you're like, oh, and you care about it. And you're like, I got to solve it. And you will actually find resources to help you, because you can justify the investment of your time into those resources for yourself, right? That's how it works. So here is where that action, you know what I said, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. This is where the action stuff falls in. And we design a lot of the stuff for the action. Like we could just slip in there and be like, yeah, fix this action, that'll be enough. And for some people, yes, some people are open to that, but it takes some openness and awareness that there's a better way. And most people are not that way. You know this. Most people are just doing things the way they're doing them forever because it works. Here's the predictability. I see confirmation bias around me all the time. I'm like, hey, this works. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That's most people's lives, which is fine. but not for us, right? Because you're here to figure out a better way to do this. Because our goal is not to keep on creating things that nobody's going to look at. Our goal is to get somebody from a cold, unaware state that there is a better way, to get them excited about this actual journey and be like, oh my God, it's not that I'm an introvert. It's that I've never actually checked out this, or introverts do this too. I just need this kind of help or this kind of support. What is that, right? So the interactive story, what it's meant to do is not meant to teach anybody anything. It's not meant to be like, oh, now I know how to, be a great communicator. No, it's not. In fact, the interactive story, what it's supposed to do is create some confusion and doubt. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to help you realize that there is a potential out there, but you're not there yet, and you're on your own journey. And then the goal of this interactive story is to get you to take the next step towards the intense tutorial because you're ready. If you try to teach people how to do something in the interactive story, you're probably going to turn them off because they're like, why are you teaching me this? I already know this. I don't need to know that. So your goal is to really have them have as many ahas as possible. Be like, oh, I wonder if that would work for me. You want them to start questioning their reality. You want them to start thinking about possibilities for themselves, and then you line up the things that will help them achieve those possibilities. You want to be the top salesperson? Look, through this, you sell them on this story, you sell them on the journey here, and then you take them through and you have some resources lined up later on. So I hope that's making sense to you guys. All right. Now, also I have an announcement. I will be running a live webinar very, very soon. So I have a webinar on demand, which is basically my interactive storytelling journey. And it walks you through my process. So if you really wanted to do an interactive story over the weekend, heck, you could, because I have at elearningsecrets.com, my webinar is on demand. However, I find that a lot of people have questions about, how does this work for me? Here's my special situation, or I tried it and whatever, and it didn't work. And I love having those, and I've put them on hold for a while, but I'll be starting back up again. So if that's something you are excited about and you'd like to attend, please put a comment below to let me know that you'd be interested. And what I'll do is, as soon as I've got the links and everything ready, I'll be sending out a message. The place to also go is to go to elearningsecrets.com and sign up there. You'll be automatically added to the mailing list. And then as soon as we go live and I have some dates, you'll be the first to know. So that'll be awesome and fun. Those things are usually energy filled and everybody kind of learns from each other. They're super fun. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day, and you join me here again tomorrow. If you have any questions that arose as a result of this, sharing today, please let me know. I hope I delivered and over-delivered to you. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, friends.